What's almost as fast as a speeding bullet, almost as strong as a locomotive, and beats walking by leaps and bounds?
I got on these cars when they were brand new, and wowie, as a kid, many a pleasant hour was spent in these traveling, seeing the city.
It's the subtle superhero of the big city, Super Streetcar!
Streetcars are like the Clark Kents of the transportation world. They're unassuming, mild-mannered. In everyday life, they fade into the background. But they are also a powerful force to be reckoned with. Virtually impossible to kill, and they even come in superhero colors. Did we clash? What makes the streetcar so impressive is not the lines up above that give it power, as it is go! The lines down below, the lines that let it fly.
In fact, streetcars were doing their thing before electricity was even usable. But let's not put the cart before the horse. Back in the early 19th century, public transit was picturesque. But as cities grew, transit workers discovered that a heavy coach plus a muddy street equaled some really unhappy horses. Since they couldn't do anything about the horses, they had to do something about the streets, like dig them up and lay down rails, which cut friction on the coach's wheels to almost nothing, thereby increasing the horsepower, so to speak. In 1884, at the Toronto Industrial Exhibition, Charles Van de Poel unveiled the first transit coach powered by that zappy new invention, electricity. The crowds loved it. There was a catch. The rails carried electricity like a subway. Yeah, not a great idea.
Van de Poel solved that little problem by inventing this thing. It's called the underrunning trolley pole. And basically, it's a running conductor that's attached to the power line. It's like a traveling electrical plug. And it's why some people call them trolley cars. Yeah, a bit of a shock there. Van de Poel!
Van de Poel's shocking idea meant that city skies were soon laced with electrified power grids, and many still are today. This single source of power sends electricity down the pole and into the streetcar where it runs all the systems. We're talking the doors, the motor, the horn, windshield wipers, you name it. And any unused electricity is safely discharged out onto the tracks. The same power lines that power this streetcar power all the streetcars in the city. Fast, efficient, and inexpensive, electric streetcars on rails are a perfect way to move people around a city. But where there is greatness, a nemesis cannot be far behind. Rails come with a price. Zero steering capability. All a driver can do is stop and go and stop and go and stop. It's impossible to maneuver, and that can make it stressful for streetcar drivers.
This is a big vehicle. Nobody wants to be behind it. So you're overtaken on a regular basis. Part of the problem with having another vehicle in your lane is they stop a lot quicker than we do. Well, these vehicles, being so heavy, this one in particular is 25 tons, it will coast and coast forever. So after an operator powers up a streetcar, he will automatically cover the brake. That's the first thing that he's trained to do. He's always checking his mirrors and blind spots to make sure that nobody's going to overtake him and stop in front of him. He's also concerned about the changing rail conditions. The toughest driving conditions are in the fall when we have the leaves on the ground. What they do is they create what's called black rail for our operators, that some of the juice or the sap comes out of the leaf and it makes the driving conditions very slippery. But the operator's greatest concern is the safety of his passengers. That's his greatest concern.
One way to make things easier for streetcars is to give them priority over cars, and that's what right-of-way lanes are all about. But even they aren't foolproof.
You know, back in the early days, it used to be that streetcars were about the only way for people to get around town. And it might have stayed that way if it hadn't have been for the conspiracy.
The first streetcar lines exploded outward from city centers at breakneck speed. They ended at the edge of the countryside where the first suburbs were built, letting working-class folks get away from the big smoke. By 1920, streetcar systems had been built in New York, Toronto, Chicago, Buffalo, Oswego, New Orleans, Baltimore, San Francisco, Boston, and over 140 other cities in North America. The United States alone had over 26,000 miles of track and 60,000 streetcars in its cities. And that's not counting interurban streetcars that connected some cities, too.
One of the products of that golden age is this fine specimen here, the PCC car. It's probably one of the most successful things ever created by a committee.
28 North American cities got together and, despite the economic woes of the Great Depression, developed the most sophisticated and sassy streetcar ever built, the PCC, or President's Conference Committee Car.
Oh.
Bob, scheisse, that's creepy.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Well,
You just sitting here hanging out in the old PCC.
in the atmosphere. I got on these cars when they were brand new, and wowie, as a kid, many a pleasant hour was spent in these traveling,
Right.
seeing the city.
This sleek beast took the public by storm and quickly became the standard in cities all across North America. Toronto was especially enamored, and by the 50s had the largest PCC fleet in the entire world!
They were amazing as far as what they could carry. When you put a standing load in here, man, you've got a crowd.
And you could,
And that's what it used to be in rush hour, standing crowds.
were more people riding
Oh, of course.
cars then?
Yes.
Yeah, less vehicles on the road,
Less
less.
slowed down by the automobiles. So
Right.
you could really roll these cars. There was nothing to get one of these up to 60 miles an hour.
So Bob, what do you love about the PCC?
Let me show you some of the finer points. Here's one of the features. Look at this. Beautiful chrome work. Look at the windows. All you do is you crank the window up. And the seats, they're nice, bouncy seats. Everything in the car was put together nice.
Ironically, just as the PCC began to roll off the line, evil plans were already afoot to kill the streetcar boom.
The auto industry was in full swing, and car makers needed to convince people that cars were the better way to get around. The best way to succeed was to make them the only way to get around. So, General Motors, Standard Oil, Firestone Tires, and Mack Truck formed a villainous consortium that secretly bought the streetcar systems in over 100 cities. Their evil plan? To destroy them all. The streetcars were scrapped, their tracks ripped from the ground. In 1949, the conspirators were convicted of US federal antitrust violations and fined $1 each. The future did not look bright for our elephantine electric friend, but it's super, remember? And it wasn't done yet. Go, go! Most Torontonians will tell you that Toronto is terrific, But in the epic story of the streetcar, it's actually true. It's the only Canadian city that turned a blind eye to the 40s trend of tearing up tracks, and by the mid-60s, it was the only Canadian city with any streetcars at all. By 75, there were only 9 cities in North America that were still riding the rails.
Certainly in the early 70s, Toronto was one of about 10 cities that still operated streetcars, and it was then the largest remaining streetcar system in North America. However, TTC wanted to follow in the footsteps of many other North American cities and get rid of their streetcars. We had quite a large citizens' battle in what was the old city of Toronto, where the streetcars, frankly, I think were a lot more loved then than they are now, because they were much more a part of the city. And we were successful in convincing City Council to have the TTC reverse its position and to retain the streetcar system. After that happened, Toronto basically stood still. We've had a few small expansions, but really what we had hoped for in the early 70s in saving the system was that it would become the nucleus of a larger system out into the suburbs, and that has never happened.
In truth, Toronto's system has been pretty much stagnant since way back. From 38 to 96, nothing changed. Same cars, same tracks, same system. 2 new drivers. That's when the CLRV, or Canadian Light Rail Vehicle, electrified the scene. At first glance, these bad boys may not look like much, but ooh, baby, look out! The CLRV's motor is its primary brake. It also doubles as a power generator whenever the streetcar slows or, get this, stops.
And this generator converts the energy of motion, which is a kinetic energy, into electrical energy and gets processed and fed back into the grid for other cars on the system to utilize the energy.
Just to be safe, streetcars also have 2 backup brakes.
Okay, to have a better look, let's go underneath a streetcar. And the secondary brake is the air brake over here that supports the electrical brake when the energy is not sufficient. And then there's, of course, the third level of braking, which is the track brake. That is the emergency brake and energized magnetically by the onboard low voltage system. This is the brain of the streetcar, what we call the ECU, or the electronic control unit. Basically, it's the interface between the operator's control console, and that it processes the signals to the motors and the brake. The streetcar is basically one big car body sitting on 2 trucks. Basically, they are the undercar carriage to support the car body, which sits on top of it. And each truck consists of a suspension system that has 3 components to it. And this is the cross member that the car body sits on, and underneath it there's an air spring, and this gives the secondary suspension. And then the secondary suspension sits on the beam, which is sitting on the coil spring, which is basically the primary suspension. And the coil spring is sitting on the adjournal bearing, and that goes through the axle, and that is sitting over there on the wheels.
The inside of these wheels consists of 2 layers of rubber blocks sandwiched together to support the steel tire. Yummy. Adding to the streetcar's overall suspension as it moves along the track. The low friction of steel wheels against steel rails means that at a certain point the wheels will slip and spin. To get 2 smooth surfaces to grip each other, they have to move slowly enough to maintain friction, but once they get going, they can glide for miles, as long as they're moving on a smooth, flat surface. Going up hills can be tough.
The streetcar can only climb up hills at about 8% maximum. And there's 8 foot of rise over 100 foot of run. So it's 8 feet over 100 feet. And anything outside of that would need something like what San Francisco uses.
So how do those San Francisco trolleys do it? They use an underground cable to pull them up those hills, and while Toronto streetcars may not have a cable to help them deal with slippery situations, they've got something else. Sand. It provides all the traction most streetcars need, and it's available at the touch of a button. And that's why there's a little beach on the road. And those slippery tracks are why, a century on, controversy follows streetcars just as surely as they follow their rigid rails. Take, for example, the tussle over the streetcar track along this busy downtown Toronto street. When city officials tried to turn a regular streetcar line that shared space with cars into a dedicated right-of-way, they got a controversy that wound up in court.
And St. Clair is going to do better after this project is done.
The Toronto Transit Commission and the city are proposing to build exclusive transit lanes down through the middle of St. Clair Avenue, taking up over 50% of the street. We're going to have narrower sidewalks, parking, one lane for car traffic, and a dedicated right-of-way through the middle of the street. The street cut would be to here, where we would lose this much. Then you have to imagine this amount of space used for street furniture, the street lights. So we're coming to about here, which leaves a very small area for actually walking. So the usable portion of the street is here, which means there's no room at all for patios, for merchandise displays, for anything. What we want is balance. We want a mixed-use neighborhood. We have people who shop, people who walk, people who ride bicycles, people who ride in cars, and people who ride in transit. Having a transit corridor translated as only exclusive transit lanes, that's the only solution they've ever proposed to improve public transit, then what you're doing at ground level is denying the vibrancy of this neighborhood. How is this going to work?
On the other hand, dedicated right-of-ways play on the streetcar's strengths and return them to their original purpose.
By making sure that we have the right-of-way, we can have greater control of the traffic flow. Because since we're the only ones on it, we can space our vehicles out properly. We can almost ensure or guarantee better service for our customer.
Like most superheroes and all in-laws, streetcars naturally generate debate about the line between being useful and being overbearing. But as we'll see, they are heroes to the end.
You know how it goes, you don't know what you got till it's gone, and then you need a fake version. Some people are so attached to the idea of streetcars that they have to have one around, even if it ain't going anywhere. Hey there.
Hey.
Come here often?
Too often.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Debbie, I'm Jeff.
Hi.
This is your streetcar?
Yes.
How long have you had the streetcar?
We've had it about 10 years now.
This is a PCC car.
I know that.
So do I.
Yeah.
Do people like it?
They love it.
People come here and it's filled up?
Yep, every weekend.
And why do you like it, Debbie? Why you?
I like it because it reminds me of when I was a child growing up in Mississauga and I spent every weekend in Toronto.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yesterday's progress is today's nostalgia. Even as streetcars were about to be decimated, America started seeing them in a different light. They were embedded as deeply in the culture as they were in the roads, and they went from being a mere means of moving to a cultural phenomenon, spawning plays, art, and films. Stella! Public transit was hot, man. Who would have guessed that we'd look back at an almost derailed 40s as a reminder of a generation's innocence and youth?
We all have a time when certain things impress us and certain things that we grow up with are part of our lives. It just struck me like an epiphany. Here was the streetcar that I had grown up with and lived with, this beautiful maroon and cream sort of gliding object that was so different from cars. It was elegant. It was just a very, very classy way to travel. The feeling about the PCC car could be the same as baby boomers who had a 55 Chevy convertible with a panoramic windshield, you know, that kind of thing. There's something about the shape of them that just graphically is attractive. My quest was to look at banal images from our daily life and try and elevate them to aesthetic images. And the fact is the car has taken over, and the streetcar is now something of a diversion. If you're a driver, it's interesting how you become a Jekyll and Hyde. When you're in a streetcar, you're loving it, but when you're driving a car, you all go, darn, I gotta stop, I've gotta wait for people to get on and off. Having said all that, as an aesthetic experience, it's still a delight, and it's what cities are all about.
Charles Pachter's reflections are souvenirs of a time when streetcars were jammed with riders leaving town. As suburbs expanded, the cores of America's cities became places of work and nothing else. Because they were no longer the heart of their communities, downtown cores soon fell into disrepair and ended up abandoned and hollowed out. Now, strangely, the streetcar has become one of the driving forces of revitalization. Pardon the pun. Since the 1980s, an increasing number of North American cities have embraced light rail as the next step in the evolution of streetcars. Light refers to the volume of traffic as compared to trains, not the weight of the cars. Coupled cars run on dedicated tracks, separated from traffic, and controlled by signals, just like trains. These state-of-the-art vehicles are making our heroes hot again. In Portland, Oregon, the Metropolitan Area Express, or MAX, has meant an enormous improvement for riders and communities alike. In the 70s, Portland's officials decided to invest in light rail. They expanded their transit service to 71 kilometers, but did not build one additional kilometer of road. Ridership more than doubled, and property values in Max's vicinity soared close to 500%. Can you dig it? All this and property taxes and energy consumption plummeted. Light rail proved itself fast, cheap, and environmentally friendly. It may also be the key to keeping our cities vital and livable, and is quickly becoming the transportation strategy for most modern North American cities. I say again, can you dig it?
So the streetcar is still shaping our lives and our cities, and if Max is anything to go by, maybe a streetcar renaissance is the way to go, right into the future. So David, how do I make this thing go?
Pretty straightforward. Your right hand is the brake.
Right, here.
Your left hand is the power.
Power's here.
That's right.
We're already in forward.
Yep. Take the little hook off
The little
power,
dead hand. Nice.
and you're good to go as soon as you close the doors.
Okay, doors closed.
Now power.
Power on, here we go. I'm out of here.
This is super cool. I'm driving a streetcar. Go! Stop. Go! Stop. Go! Stop. Stay stop. Now go! 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 Okay, stop right here in the middle of the intersection. Dundas. Bathurst. Wait. Here we go. Flashing little lights.